Okay, so let's be honest. Have you ever set that big New Year's resolution to read the entire Bible only to find yourself, totally losing steam somewhere around Leviticus? Yeah, you are definitely not alone. It's a massive undertaking, a true literary marathon.
I mean, just look at that number, 1,189 chapters. Wow. When you see it laid out like that, it really puts the whole goal into perspective, doesn't it? It's basically an Everest of text.
And that's the big question, isn't it? The math seems pretty simple, but most people who start this journey, well, they just never make it to the end. In this explainer, we're going to unpack exactly why that is and explore how maybe, just maybe, changing the goal itself is the real answer.
So here's our game plan for figuring this all out. We'll start by looking at why the goal can feel so impossible. Then we'll diagnose what the real obstacle is. From there, we'll dive into the psychology of giving up, propose a pretty powerful shift in how we think about it, tackle the unique challenges of our digital age, and wrap it all up with the most important question of all.
All right, first up, the unreachable goal. This is where most of us start. We get caught up looking at this whole challenge as just a simple numbers game.
I mean, on paper, it looks so incredibly manageable. 3 or 4 chapters a day, that doesn't sound too hard, does it? It seems like a perfectly achievable plan. But here's the thing. The fact that it seems so simple only makes you wonder even more. Why do so many of us fall off the wagon?
But what if the problem has nothing to do with the number of chapters at all? And that brings us to the real obstacle, which is something much, much deeper.
And this really gets to the heart of it. The issue isn't about logistics, it's psychological. It's not about the sheer quantity of text, but the quality of our motivation to keep going, day in and day out.
Now, what's so fascinating about this is how perfectly it illustrates a fundamental truth about any long-term project. So many of us start out with this incredible intensity. We'll read like 10 chapters on day 1, but that fire, it just burns out so fast. Real success in a marathon like this always comes from consistency, just small, steady, repeatable actions that build momentum over the long haul.
So, what is actually happening in our brains when we give up? Well, reading the Bible this way really is a marathon, not a sprint, and it comes with all the mental hurdles you'd expect in a long-distance race. We face 4 really big hurdles. First, there's emotional fatigue. That initial excitement just fizzles out and it becomes a chore. Second, goal blur. We totally forget why we even started this thing. Third, the reward feels so far off in the future that it stops motivating us. And finally, probably the biggest one, life just happens, Other priorities inevitably get in the way.
So, if the plan keeps failing, maybe the problem isn't our execution, maybe it's the goal itself. This is where we make a huge pivot, from just diagnosing the problem to actually finding a solution.
This, right here, really highlights the disconnect. Think about it. The authors weren't following some one-year reading plan. They were writing from this fire of inspiration and crisis. Our rigid chapter-a-day method is completely disconnected from the organic, passionate nature of the text itself.
Okay, this table is the real aha moment. The old goal is all about completion. The question is, how many chapters did I check off? But the new goal, it's all about comprehension. The question becomes, what is the story here? We're moving from these fragmented little chunks to actually following the narrative flow. It's a huge shift from just an intellectual task to a life-transforming experience.
Of course, we aren't trying to do this in a vacuum. Our modern digital world, well, it presents its own set of really unique challenges to this kind of deep, focused reading.
This is a key concept for our time, the spiritual satiation illusion. Think about it. After you scroll through a feed packed with inspirational quotes and little video clips, you can feel spiritually full. But in reality, as this shows, we've just been snacking on content. We haven't had a real meal.
And just look at how the delivery method itself has changed. What used to be a thoughtful message sent through a personal relationship is now just content that's copied and pasted and broadcast by an algorithm. We've shifted from personal connection to passive consumption, and that changes the entire experience. And all of this brings us to our final and honestly our most important section. Everything we've talked about leads to one fundamental question about our purpose. Why are we even doing this in the first place?
So here's the first really critical question you have to ask yourself. Are you reading just to gather information, to win a trivia game? Or are you reading to actually be transformed?
to let the text change you from the inside out. And here's the second one. Are you approaching the text with the posture of a teacher, looking for stuff you can share? Or are you coming with the humility of a student, someone who's ready to be taught, corrected, and guided?
And that leads us to this really powerful idea. The Bible's goal is not to just inform you, but to pierce you. It's meant to be active, to get through our defenses. Because honestly, if we can read the whole thing and walk away unchanged, then it was all just an intellectual exercise, wasn't it?
So after we've navigated all the psychology, the methods, and the modern-day challenges, we find our way out of the maze. It all comes down to one simple choice about what your core motivation really is.
Are you reading out of duty because you feel like you're supposed to? Or are you reading out of hunger, a genuine, deep desire for what's inside? In the end, that is the only question that truly matters.